This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, a weekly recap of your Philadelphia Eagles. Broadcasting live from Hard Rock Cafe in Philadelphia, tonight's show is brought to you by Penn Community Bank, Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia, Independence Blue Cross, The Capitol Grill, Rob's Automotive and Collision, and BCWSA. We now go live to the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Center City, Philadelphia for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And welcome, everybody, to another season of the WBCB Monday Night Kickoff here at the beautiful Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM. We start a new season with myself, my co-host back for another season, Mr. Paul Domowitch. A little bit of a high wire act, Domo, yesterday, but first of all, welcome, and second of all, breathe out.
Yeah, it was a close game. Thanks, Jolly. I'm looking forward to another great season with you.
Absolutely. We'll have all guests every week. We'll be here at 5 o'clock the first few weeks, 6 o'clock after that. The Bull session follows this on WBCB. As long as the Phillies are live, we'll be here at 5. That rhymes. This doesn't rhyme, but he's our guest tonight, and I am thrilled. We joke around a lot on our frequent phone calls. Actually, they haven't been frequent lately because he's been battling something a little bit more difficult than the Detroit Lions. Our first guest of the season, we're so happy to have Bill Bergey, who beat nasal cancer, has had a palate transplant, has had some rough sledding lately. But, Bill, you're 1-0 in a game a lot more important than football. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Paul. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy on the right side of the ground.
You're on the right side. That's all that matters. We've got a football game to talk about that also took place on the right side of the ground yet. Bill, first of all, start of the season, opening game in Detroit. A lot of people thought it was going to be easy. I did not. As anybody who talked to me last week knows, I thought this would be a very difficult game against a pumped-up team for their home opener. They got a coach that's a maniac. I'm not sure what he is, his X's and O's, but he's a motivator. And it was a tough game, although for a lot of different reasons. I thought the Eagles would win in the last few minutes. They held on in the last few minutes. What did you see yesterday?
Well, I saw a very poor defense. They didn't look very good. But you got to keep one thing in mind, Paul. That first game of the year is really, really tough, whether you're home or away. And in this case, it was you're playing away in front of a sellout crowd, and it's just tough. It really is in this game of pro football. Anybody can beat anybody on any really given Sunday. And I knew it was going to be a close game. I really did think it was going to be that way. That's
true. And Damo, obviously a tough game on many fronts. Home opener for the Lions. What were your perceptions of the game?
Well, I mean, week one, what you see is not often what you get later on in the season. You look at some of the scores yesterday. I mean, the Giants beating Tennessee. Several other games. Every game was close if it wasn't an upset. So, I mean, anything can happen in the first game. I mean, I thought they were under, they had a 17-point lead. They were under control. Then the offense kind of went into a shell. The defense couldn't stop Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift. They just kind of hung on.
All right. They did hang on. They play the Minnesota Vikings next week at home. A game that I think is going to be pretty easy for the Birds, although that's going to be different than a lot of other people think. We'll talk about that in a little while. Bubba, they up 17, as Damo said. One player that we didn't see a lot of yesterday, Bill, the Eagles have not really emphasized the linebacker position in the last 700 or 800 years since I've been following the team. And now they look like they are. And there's a kid that's going to step into this lineup. He's going to become a starter immediately when he does. He's going to be the backbone of the Eagles defense for the next 10 years. And I can't guarantee that, but I'm pretty confident when I say that. He's a leader. He's a terrific player. He's a little undersized, but who cares? And that's Nakobe Dean.
And you just got to have a guy like Kobe that had that take charge attitude, and he has it, and I think he's going to be a fine player too. But talking about the linebackers, they're just about obsolete in the NFL, and they have been obsolete with the Philadelphia Eagles, but I'm glad that they're paying attention to them now.
why are they obsolete? What's happening at the position?
Well,
Either one
because
of you guys?
they're going after the hybrid defensive backs, the guys that are 220 that can run with any wide receiver or a running back coming out of the backfield, and that's just about the way that goes.
Yeah, I mean, the matchups are a problem if you get guys there that don't have that kind of speed, because offenses will attack you. Coaches are smarter than ever these days, so that's, I mean, all of those guys are, 4'4", 40 guys most of the time. And Nakobe Dean, I agree. I was surprised yesterday. I believe he played 3, 4, 5 snaps.
He's a killer.
I mean, I guess they're trying to bring him along slowly. They have a better idea than we do about how ready he is, but he's a smart guy, so I can't imagine that he struggled to pick up this defense. I'm hoping Gannon is just like slowly doing a lot of things. I mean, they didn't blitz much yesterday, and they really needed to, because the 4-man rush wasn't getting to Jared Goff in the second half.
They blitzed early, but then called off the dogs just when the Lions got in gear with Swift with the running game. Obviously, the running game worked for the Lions, and they got the one turnover. But why calling off the dogs? What happened? I mean, I understand the training camp, the lack of training camp. And listen, let's not kid ourselves. And, Bill, you'd be a perfect person to talk about this with, because you went through those Dick Vermeil training camps of 8 practices a day, tackling to the ground, hitting.
Hit every single play. Yeah. Every play.
Now you have nothing. Listen, the Eagles can talk all they want about they were prepared. They weren't prepared. A lot of teams in the NFL weren't prepared, but by design, because that's the way training camp works. Stay away from injuries. I understand. I'm not disagreeing with it, but you got guys like Hassan Reddick who didn't show up. A defense didn't show up. They weren't in rhythm. Wasn't chemistry. What's your point of view, Bill, on the way training camp has evolved since you played?
Well, I'm really shocked with the way these guys are today. I mean, they'll go out there and they'll practice 50, 55 minutes, and then in shorts, and then they're done for the morning practice, and then it's the same thing with an afternoon practice during training camp. So it's really it's really wild. I'm just not used to it in any way. With Dick Vermeil, I can remember there was one time we had 3 practices a day, and every practice was over 3 hours.
Damo, would they be alive if that happened today?
I mean, you see what not tackling to the ground in training camp, the impact it has. I mean, yesterday, I believe they had 13 missed tackles. Avonte Maddox had 3 of them.
That was just third down.
Gardner Johnson had 3 of them. I mean, there were just a lot of costly missed tackles that allowed DeAndre Swift to run for more yards than he should have been allowed to run for. So, I mean, they've decided to sacrifice that for the fact that, these guys are healthy when they line up in week 1.
Mike Tirico last night on Sunday Night Football said something that was so true. It pertains to every team in the NFL, every fan base in the NFL, guys. This is overreaction week. This is a week to look back at your team, see whether they played well or played poorly, coached well or coached poorly, and pretend that that's going to happen every snap the entire year. We're freaking out about Jonathan Gannon. We're excited about some. Jalen Hurts played well. But whether you're excited, freaking out, whatever it is, how fair is it, Damo, first, to take week 1 and pretend there's any length to this when they haven't really played? Bill Belichick called the first week of the season, first month, the new preseason. I completely agree with him and think yesterday's result means almost nothing.
Well, look at last year, and because Green Bay loses big yesterday.
Yep. Which they did last
year. They got killed by New Orleans, and they go on to win 12 of their next 16 games,
right,
and cruise into the playoffs. So you're right. You can't take much out of week 1 if you're a team that if you hang on and win like they did. You're very fortunate.
Bill, in a locker room, when you were playing, I mean, how much did Dick Vermeil and other coaches you played for, you came here in a trade on July 10th, 1974, I'm guessing one of the bigger days in your life. When you used to win week 1 with a team that was supposed to win week 1, did you take that as par for the course? It's good to get a win. We're not going to go winless, all these other goofy cliches. How seriously did you take it depending on who you played?
Well, you want to win every game, and that's your attitude when you go in there, Paul. I would look forward to that home opener every single year because that was laying the foundation for the players, the fans, and television, radio, everything. And once you got that first one under your belt, it was kind of like easy sailing after that.
Domo, again, to talk about week one, how upset, there are Eagle fans today that are lighting up the lines at WIP about Jonathan Gannon, about Jalen Hurts on the other side, about various things in between. How much credence do you put into anything week one? Not to say it doesn't mean anything, because it does. You played the game, you're accountable, but for the long term.
Yeah, I mean, we went through this with Gannon last year. You know, everybody wanted to fire him. Last year he was playing very conservative because he didn't have a lot of talent, and he didn't know what he had and how to use them. So he was kind of playing a bend but not break approach. This year he's got talent. I think it's going to take a few games before we really have an idea of what this team, how he wants to use this talent. I think right now he just wants to, not have his unit cost them games.
Bill, the Eagles signed
Yes.
Hassan Reddick to a 3-year contract in the offseason, $45 million. Didn't really do much yesterday. Kaiser White picked up from the Chargers, tipped the ball to James Bradbury, picked up from the Giants, who got his first pick six. You became, when you were signed by the Eagles, when you were traded to the Eagles, you shortly after signed a contract, 4 years and $1 million.
That's right.
Making you the highest paid linebacker, maybe the highest paid player, I'm not sure.
Highest paid defensive player at the time.
4 years and $1 million would not cover the insurance on the minimum salary right now. How do you feel about the way the money's going in this league?
I'm all for him. I go for it. Chuck Bednarik, he would stomp up and down and say, why in the heck are these so-and-so guys who aren't playing anywhere near as good as me making that kind of money? Well, I'm just the opposite. I'm for these guys making all the money they can make. And Russell Wilson, the quarterback from Seattle that went to Denver, he signed a contract. He's getting $36 million a year. My contract was 4 years for $1 million, so his take-home paycheck is more money than my whole 4 years was. But I'm all for him. I wish them the very best. I hope they can get all they can get.
And Damo, one thing Russell Wilson and Bubba have in common, Bubba, obviously Bill's nickname, is that neither one's played a game this year. Russell Wilson coming back home. This is kind of quarterback old home week. Baker Mayfield hosting the Browns. Joe Flacco played the Ravens. Russell Wilson going back to Seattle. We were going to talk about this later anyway, but Bill led us into it. What are you expecting tonight?
I like Denver last year had one of the best defenses in the league.
They had Von Miller, though.
Yeah. No.
No, they did.
He was with the Rams.
He was with L.A.
Only the second part of the year.
Yeah. All they were missing last year was a quarterback, and that cost the coach his job, and I'm not sure why, because he's.
From your neck of the woods, Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I mean, Fangio is one of the best defensive minds in the game, and he developed that defense. And so they get rid of him and finally bring in a quarterback. And I think that's probably the best division in football this year. I mean, every week you're going to see those quarterbacks battling whenever there's a division game. So. But I like Denver's chances to make the playoffs this year.
How about divisions, guys? We talk about the NFC East. Obviously, Dallas already without Tyron Smith, losing Dak for probably half the season while getting pummeled by Tampa Bay. That's a shame. Everybody have a problem with Dallas losing last night? Such a terrible shame, although I don't root for anybody to get hurt. The Giants win at Tennessee. Brian Daboll, some guts. 2-point conversion with a minute left. And
Carson Wentz, what a job he did.
4 touchdown passes. He'll be here in 2 weeks. Bill, before we go to our first break, back to Jonathan Gannon for a second. How upset would you get when you had a coordinator that wouldn't turn you loose and you knew you would be a better player if you were turned loose? He had you read and react, and you were a maniac-type player, not a read and react-type player. Did that drive you crazy?
Well, it would drive me crazy, but still you got to be a player that can respect your coaches and you do what they do to the best of your ability, and that's the way that has to play out.
That's a very good way to put it. Damo, how would you think if you were in a defense like that and you were asked to be something that you really weren't?
He's not. I mean, it's not that he's asking these guys to do something out of character.
Well, we're not sure what he's asking yet, but
right,
I mean,
but
if he did.
They're not a read and react defense.
Right.
He's letting them be aggressive. It's just that, yesterday I was very disappointed in the pass rush. Not for anything. I mean, he could have blitzed more. But, I mean, guys like Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham's coming off a serious injury, so they limited his snaps. But you expect more considering the time and money they put into improving that front four this year. Yesterday they have 1 sack and I believe maybe 13 total pressures, which is not a lot.
As far as expectations, last year we saw this team evolve in Nick Sirianni's first year to a run-first team. That's the personnel they had. They didn't start that way, but they evolved that way after playing all the good quarterbacks, it seemed like. Do you expect this defense to evolve into a marauding, aggressive defense, especially when Nakobe Dean gets in? Trust me on this one, folks. Or do you think this is what we're going to see for a while? I don't. I think it's going to become – I think last year's running game is going to become this year's aggressive defense.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think this is going to become a Jim Johnson type defense where we're going to see all sorts of intricate blitzes. But I think it's going to get more aggressive. I think he's going to use people like Dean and C.J. Gardner-Johnson in roles where they're coming after the quarterback. So yeah, I do.
I kind of like to watch the front runners, the big boys play, and Fletcher Cox was not double-teamed yesterday, and he was being blocked by a backup lineman, and that really was disheartening for me.
Yeah, Big V. Vitae was on his reserve. Detroit was banged up on the offensive line. Yeah. We're going to talk about that and much, much more from here at the beautiful Hard Rock Cafe, where Paul and all the people, Tay, our waitress, everybody has been so nice. I'm going to be here every week, and happy hours every Monday. Right now, Friday, 5 to 7 p.m., $1 off Bud Light, Sam Adams, and Blue Moon Draft, $6 House Chardonnay and Merlot, $5 Smirnoff and Cruzan Rum single liquor drinks, 7 for doubles. W Sports Talk Mondays from 5 to 7 here at Hard Rock with the Monday Night Kickoff show right following us. The Bull Session with Dan Baker and Greg Luzinski. Ed Wade, their guest tonight, September 12th, 19th, 26th, October 3rd, and however long the Phillies keep going with their playoff run and the Eagles' road to victory while enjoying some great food and happy hour specials. Join us here at Hard Rock for live entertainment in the cafe every Wednesday. Enjoy some great food and our happy hour drink specials every Wednesday, 5 to 7 p.m. Our 9:14 performer this Wednesday, Ray Pearson, a split decision. No split decisions here. It's unanimous. Eagles 1-0. We'll talk about it with Bill Bergey when we come back.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. Great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
I'm Lisa Thomas Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand & Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley. For an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Welcome back to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show live from Hard Rock Cafe, Philly. Don't forget, you can watch the show live at WBCBSports.com and Facebook Live by searching WBCB Sports. Tonight and every night of the year, our producer is the wonderful Mr. Chris Surmer, who's done this for a long time. We're going to give him a shout-out. He'll be here every week. here for the Bull Session after this. Does a great job. Tonight's guest is Bill Bergey. Bubba, we did the postgame show for a long time together. That's why I affectionately call you Bubba. I normally joke with you a lot, as you obviously know, but dead serious tonight that you defeated the one opponent that all of us would not want to face in cancer, and God bless everything about you. So I'm sure that's a little bit more important than the date I'm going to mention. But the date, July 10th, 1974, obviously a big place in your life. You were traded from the Bengals to Philadelphia for half the draft picks for the next 10 years and 18 players, whatever it was, a big deal. What was that day like in your life, and did you ever think it would lead to living here forever and what it led to?
Well, just as soon as I hit the ground here in Philadelphia, I said, this is a whole new start for me. I'm looking forward to it. I have been very kind to all of the people, all of the fans in Philadelphia, and in return, they've been very kind to me. And I, all the way up that ladder, so-called of success, I was patted on the back, and I have met those same people coming down off the ladder, and it just gives me a good warm feeling inside.
I was doing a profile on Dick before the ceremony in Canton, and I talked to one of your old teammates, Stanley Walters.
Yeah.
Stanley?
Stan was saying that, because he, like you, came from Cincinnati, and he said it was.
And I was responsible to get him here in Philadelphia, talking to Jim Murray, the general manager at the time.
But he was just saying, he used to go fishing between practices at training camp with the Bengals because Paul Brown's training camps were much different than Dick's. And when he got to Philly and started dealing with Dick's camps, it took him a while to kind of get used to accepting that was the best method of getting you guys to play as well.
And I need to throw this out. Dick Vermeil, next Monday night at our home opener, he is going to be presented his Hall of Fame ring at halftime, and we're going to have a bunch of his players there on the field, and he is so deserving of it.
Yeah.
But boy, I'll tell you what, there was times where I would cuss him out like you can't believe, and where in the heck is this Harry High School coach coming from, for crying out loud? But I knew after a while what he really wanted to do, and he wanted to instill the discipline that was so obviously lacking in the old Philadelphia Eagles at the time.
It seems like, Bill, that I've heard this about a lot of different coaches who were successful in a lot of different places. Lombardi in Green Bay, Dick Vermeil here, a million people in a million other places. Is that the discipline was a joke when the coach got here. When everybody realized there was something to it, it was like one day a light clicked in and the team just changed overnight. Was it like that with this team?
Well, when he came in, the thing of it is I had made, at that time, 3 or 4 times I was All-Pro. And when he has to say to me, you got to keep your chin strap buckled, I'll tell you when you can get a drink. Don't take a knee. And I'm going, my gosh, where in the heck did this idiot come from, for crying out loud? But I bought into his way of doing things, and eventually I figured out what he was trying to do. Yeah. And that was to instill the discipline that was, like I said, obviously lacking.
And we've talked about this last year. We had Dick on the show. So many years later, you guys still get together with him and love him so much. Stan Walters was saying, and Stan had, it took Stan a while after Dick quit because he kind of felt Dick had kind of abandoned him for when he burned out. But Stan said if he called me today and said, "Hey, Stan, I'm down in Harrisburg. I got a flat tire. Can you come down?" He'd be there in a minute.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when I was going through my health problems, Dick Vermeil had come out to my house either 3 or 4 different times just to sit with me for an hour and a half, and it just takes a special guy to do that.
Yeah.
Bill, this is kind of an inside thing, but I've always been curious about it. You live in a place where you live very, very near a very, very major intersection, but you live in the woods 400 feet from this intersection where you're 2 feet away from falling outside your house and being with huge society, but you might as well live in Alaska because it's very kind of cloistered where you live. Do you enjoy that? Obviously you do because you live there, but how's it like to live in a house that's just urban and rural at basically the exact same time?
I love it. The only thing is, the deer come right up onto my back deck. Squirrels all over the place. I mean, I really do like the isolation. But you're right. I am, hop, skip, and a jump from.
I don't want you don't have to give the intersection. It's
Yeah.
okay. Damo,
Yeah.
people ask me, and they've asked me about Bill this many, many times because they know we worked together in the postgame show on WIP and the like. What is Bill Bergey doing now? And I've said this about Bill Bergey and other people in other sports, Bobby Clark and others. And I said, he's Bill Bergey. And they said, what do you mean? I said, in a city like Philadelphia where the fans care so much about sports and where they adopt their players and then, keep them forever,
Right.
that if you're a legend, an icon, which Bill is in this city, after you retire, you'll get enough gigs just doing appearances and being yourself to take you for the rest of your life. How many places do you think are like that? And what do you think it says about an athlete that you can live life basically as yourself for a living?
There aren't a lot, at least not a lot that embrace their former athletes quite like this. I mean, Bill knows better than I do what it's like to experience it. But you'll have some cities where maybe they have one guy that they embrace, and that's about it. But here, I mean, every sport there are guys that stayed here after they retired and live here and are loved and are never forgotten.
Bill, what's it like
That's
to
a good
live
way to
your
put
life
it.
as Bill Bergey?
I love it. I've always been nice to people, and in return, they've been nice to me. But what really gets me more than anything, Paul, is I can walk down these streets of Philadelphia, and it seems like every third or fourth person says, "Hey, Bill, how you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for the good old days." And that just gives me a real good, warm feeling inside. So I say to myself, I must have done something along the way.
Yeah.
You
that
sure
was
did.
right.
Well, you did a lot along the way that was right. And then Paul Domowitch and Chris Ermer, our producer, and anybody that knows me knows that I just wouldn't say this if it wasn't true, even though you're my good friend and you're sitting here. I wouldn't tell you I thought you were a Hall of Famer if you weren't. I'd say you were a hell of a player, but I would never mention the other thing. I wouldn't say you weren't. But you should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in a lot of people's minds. Two of your compatriots, Harold Carmichael and Dick Vermeil, have gone in the last 2 years. Is that something that tips your mind that someday may happen? Because a lot of us think that you should be a Hall of Famer. Damo, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's as Bill knows, he's a senior candidate now, and it's awfully tough to there's so many guys for so many teams that did not, that were overlooked when they had eligibility as a modern era candidate, and it gets tough. But I absolutely agree with you. I mean, Bill belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Is it something, a hole in your resume, Bill, to you? Do you deserve it?
Not really. Believe it or not, I'm in about 10 Hall of Fames.
Philadelphia, Buffalo?
Arkansas, Buffalo, Philadelphia.
All stops along the
Chautauqua
way.
County, everything. But,
Arkansas?
He's
yes,
from Arkansas.
Yeah,
That's right.
I am.
Yeah.
Arkansas State's Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So anyhow, the one thing I can say about Dick, and when he was giving his speech, I was really listening to him, and he had said, I don't know who the guy was that stopped the Tennessee Titan just before he was going
Mike
to score
Jones,
a touchdown. Dick Vermeil said, if that play wouldn't have happened, I would have never have been in the Hall of Fame. And
He went through his career in that speech and named people that gave him a break that enabled him to go forward and credited them with putting him in the position he was in. It's amazing.
And he won't take credit for this.
No.
He gives credit to everybody in the world. And as soon as his speech was over, I had texted him, and he said, "Thank you, Bill. I wouldn't have been here unless you would have been with me." And actually, you were with me. So anyhow, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
It's all really nice. And we're talking with Bill Bergey. We'll get his picks, and we'll give all our picks on the Eagles record, the NFC East. Bill has had many jobs since he retired. We'll talk about one of them with somebody that's in his 46th year doing it, who actually works at this radio station as well. We'll give you that hint and come back with the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM right after this. Stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe has it all. Great food takes center stage as they tune up your visit with free live music every Friday night at 6. Sponsored by Conshohocken Brewing Company. See Philly's best rocking the main stage while you enjoy Hard Rock favorites right here in Center City. Pickup, delivery, and catering available. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
I'm Lisa Thomas Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Don't hang out alone in the man cave this football season. Hang out at Cheerleaders with sexy entertainers, $4 Miller Lights, Jameson specials, and awesome game day prizes during all Sunday and Monday football games. Stop in before, during, or after the game to see your favorite entertainers and your chance to win an awesome game day prize. The most epic game day experience is at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, where champions play. Open daily from noon till 2 a.m.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Thanks for being with us. Welcome back to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff with Paul Domowitch and Bill Bergey. Domo, we can give you a million stats from game one or any game. You're talking about Devontae Smith did not catch a ball yesterday. A.J. Brown was fabulous, 10 for $155. 4 different Eagles rushed for a touchdown. First time that's happened since my birth year of 1961. A million other stats in a million other places. How important to you is Devontae Smith? I mean, was it something that your jaw dropped about? Is it something that just happens in the flow of a game? He was targeted 4 times. Of things that you have to kind of correct or tweak from week 1 to 2, how important is getting the ball to Devontae?
Well, I mean, they need to get it to him, but I mean, you can't look at one game and make any judgments. I mean, it was just, you're right, I think it was just the flow of the game. A.J. Brown was getting open, and I think that's all there is to it. I mean, he's going to catch a lot of balls. He's going to, both he and, Dallas Goedert didn't have a lot of catches either. So, I think we're going to see, they're going to always be going to who's open. So we'll see how it goes going forward, but I got a feeling all of those guys are going to end up with plenty of catches.
All right, Bill, Jalen Hurts ran for 90 yards yesterday. Probably ran a little more than fans would like him to, but he's fine, thank God. Mm-hmm. If you were a defender these days, regardless of what your scheme was on defense, what would you be paying attention to for Jalen Hurts, and what's the best way to stop him? A guy that can do everything pretty well. The question is, can he do anything great? But he's a jack of all trades, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I'd like to put a spy on them if I had to defend against them and make sure that I always blanketed him wherever he went, because he did get a lot of yards with those few carries that he had yesterday.
Yeah, Damo spy, obviously, for people who don't know, is someone who just pays attention to that guy that shadows the quarterback. He's got to be an athlete himself. Obviously, if the quarterback takes off, he's got to be able to go with him. What would you do if you were defending Jalen Hurts? And is there something specific you'd pay attention to slow him down?
No, I mean, you want him to run, but, because he's, he's, the risk of injury.
Yep.
But that doesn't seem to worry them. He's a very, you look at how he's built. He's a fullback. There aren't too many quarterbacks with that kind of body.
If you haven't been next to him, he's a big guy.
Yeah,
he's not as big as Bill, but he's a big guy.
You remember the fear over Carson Wentz running too much. I mean, that's not a fear with this guy. And the fact is, it's got to be part of his makeup. I mean, you don't want to. you don't want to take that away from him. You don't want to take it away from Lamar Jackson. I mean, that is who these guys are.
Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills,
Yep.
he's a runner. And he does a good job, and he will not slide. He'll put his head down and go through a guy.
Bill, what's the difference to you between a quarterback that runs and a running quarterback? Somebody who will run because they want to and somebody who runs to escape the rush and scramble. Is there a big difference in how to defend those kind of guys?
Yeah, you just, like I said, you really do have to shadow them. I can remember playing against Roger Staubach, and he was not afraid to pull the ball down and take off. And when he took off, it was scary because he was that good.
Yeah. I remember talking to Vermeil last year about running quarterbacks. I was doing a story on them. And, he said back when he was coaching, when he had, back in the days of Jaworski and you guys playing, his belief was if a quarterback could run, he would. And that's why he didn't like having a mobile quarterback. He says he's come full circle on that belief now. But it's still when you're a guy like Jalen and you can get away, it's hard to mentally say to yourself, stay there, exhaust your options before you take off, and that's he's still battling that. It worked for him on Sunday, but it's something he's got to be more patient. He's got to be willing. That when they blitzed yesterday, there were a lot of times he never looked for the hot receiver, the check down guy. I mean,
progressions is
So they've got to make that he's got to be. That's his next step in the whole progress of his education as a quarterback.
Domo, we always let guests promo what they want, but sometimes we forget that we do things too. You talk about you wrote for and you did this, you did that. Since you retired from the Daily News, you've gotten 8 times as busy as you ever were, writing for 8,428,000 different websites. Tell everybody what you're doing right now, how they can catch you between Mondays.
Well, I write for a couple of websites, the33rdteam.com.
Which is great.
Which is, they've hired they've got about 70 players working for them now. Chris Long, Mike Vick, just a ton of guys, Hall of Famers. Also write for jacobsports.com, which covers the Eagles. And I'm working on a book on Sam Mills, who just got into the Hall of Fame. So I keep him busy.
So, do you know Sam Mills probably played a little before he did, but he's a Hall of Fame linebacker?
A little bitty guy, right?
Yeah.
5'9".
5'9".
Mm-hmm. Just like N'Kobe Dean. Doesn't mean size of your heart's all that matters. You were obviously a big linebacker, but how do you feel about the size thing? If the greatest player ever was 5'6", 140 pounds, but he could do everything you want to do, how much would you be worried as a scout about, is he big enough? Is too much placed on size and speed and everything else and not just on how do you play football or whatever it is?
Well, you got to ask Doug Flutie.
There we are.
Little 5'8", 5'9" guy, was not, I think, 200 pounds.
Never got a real shot in the NFL. No. I mean, he had some cups of coffee.
Well, Sam, it's funny, speaking of Sam Mills and smaller linebackers, it was held against him because of his size, but yet you would talk to guys later when he became successful, and they would tell you that it was actually an advantage for him because he was able to he would get under your pads and explode.
Low man wins.
There was nobody that ever could get a clean shot on him.
Well, the thing of it is, you can really measure a guy's speed, his height, his weight, but when it comes right down to a guy like Sam Mills, you just can't measure that hard.
Right.
Well,
just
Bill,
like Paul said.
The measuring and everything else is one of your jobs that you've had since you retired. You were a broadcaster along with some guy that owns this radio station. What is it, Donald? Merrill, what's the name of the peanut butter cup? Reese, that's it. Merrill Reese. You and Merrill worked together a little bit back in the day. Congratulations on Merrill and Mike. Merrill's 46th year. Mike's 25th got off yesterday in Detroit. What was it like working with Merrill that short time?
I love Merrill Reese. And I know one thing about Merrill Reese. He knows his football as well as I know my football. And the passion that he's got for just announcing the game is something that I really behold.
All right, Bill, we have the Bull session here at 6 o'clock, the baseball version of this show. Greg Luzinski, the Bull, is sitting over there waving right now. Do you guys have a fraternity? Do you and Bull know each other? How about the ex-athletes in Philadelphia from different sports? Do you guys ever get together? Obviously, everybody's different, but are there any ex-athletes in other sports you're particularly friendly with?
Well, there used to be, back when I played, as a matter of fact, the baseball players, we shared the same showers and toilets and all of that. But it was really funny. All of the football players wanted to be baseball players, and we'd go out and we'd take batting practice with them. But it's really something that all of the baseball players wanted to be football players.
What'd they do? They go out and hit and practice or something like
Oh,
that?
we
Go through
just
3 days?
threw the ball around and had a good time with them.
That's interesting, Damo. Have you noticed in your travels around the world of sports, guys from different sports getting together and becoming lifelong friends?
Yeah, and you see it with coaches too in different sports. Parcells became close friends with a lot of baseball managers. There's
He's
just
a huge baseball fan.
Yeah, there's
in fact,
just an
our guest next
attraction.
week, Sean Landetta, who's going to be our guest on this show next week. He can obviously speak for himself, but Sean's from Baltimore, and he'll tell you to this day he likes baseball better than football, and he played football for 25 years. You got to know Sean pretty well, Bill, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. He's a great guy.
Yeah, a lot of good guys in this sport. And the Eagles been around a while. We know what they did in 2017. Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, bunch of plug-ins by Howie Roseman. They won a Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to do that this year, but a lot of people picking the Eagles do a lot of things. The groundswell seems to be going before the season, getting better and better every week. The Eagles got better and better while they didn't play. Now that they have played a game, who do you like in the East, guys? Who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl? Give me a breakout player with the Eagles in the NFL. Just some thoughts on the NFL, Bill. The Eagles got a shot at making Phoenix?
I think the trade they got for the wide receiver Brown was one of the greatest pickups you could possibly imagine. I really feel like the Eagles are going to win the division, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a homer or anything like that.
Dallas doesn't look too good right now.
Dallas right now I think is in bad shape. I think that Washington and New York, they were both lucky that they won their games yesterday. And probably I could say the same thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, but I got a feeling that we're going to be the strong team in that division.
Yeah, losing Dak Prescott for 6 to 8 weeks is just devastating.
You're not a Cooper Rush guy? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I mean, that's the thing that amazes me. I mean, Jerry Jones has been around this game long enough to understand injuries happen, and you need to have a capable backup.
That's not the first time this has happened to Dak either.
No.
I mean, first time thumb injury, but he's been hurt the last couple of years.
Yeah, so that one killed him. I mean, I thought losing their left tackle was devastating, but losing Dak is they've gotten their receiving core. They let guys walk. They're just not the team. Well, it was somebody mentioned this last night, I think, on the NBC broadcast, that with Cowboys it was like they had that 1 year window. It was last year, and they blew it.
Yep.
And now it's. Yeah, it could be
when
a while.
your owner's your general manager, that's what happens. Not in Washington. The owner's several other things, not a general manager, and we're not allowed to say things on the air that he is, just put it that way. But they won yesterday. Carson Wentz threw 4 touchdowns, a couple to Jahan Dotson, the rookie from Penn State. They trailed at home to Jacksonville and Doug Peterson. Obviously, Carson, the reunion with Doug. You put any credence into what Carson did yesterday as he comes here after the Monday night game in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, yesterday was kind of like how Carson is. I mean, the good Carson beat out the bad Carson.
Yep.
And he throws two interceptions early in the fourth quarter that they turn into 10 points, but then he comes back and throws 2 touchdowns that help him win the game. So, I've contended that Carson's not as bad as he was in 2020, and he's not as good as he was in 2017 when he almost won the MVP award if he had not gotten the ACL tear. Somewhere in the middle is where he is, and I think that's where he's going to end up with Washington. He's going to make them a decent team, but they're not going to compete for the division title this year. I mean, I think the Eagles, if they can stay healthy, have a chance to win that division and go far in the playoffs.
Well, you hit it right on the nose, staying healthy. To be successful at the end of the year, what you do is you win all the games you're supposed to win.
Yep.
You steal a game here or there.
Right.
And the bottom line is you stay healthy, and that is really the recipe of making it all the way.
Absolutely.
Getting into the playoffs and getting hot at that time.
Yeah.
Guys, we talk about players and expected the roster overhauled by Howie. A lot of great new players in a lot of places. Obviously, A.J. Brown you saw yesterday. But somebody who's been here and kind of hiding, injured last year, injured in training camp, he almost seems like someone new, although he's not. rushed for 96 yards yesterday. One of the two huge fourth down plays, Domo, on the 4-minute drive, along with Jalen Hurts sneak. And that's Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Does it seem to you like he came out of nowhere, though he didn't?
Say again.
It seems like he came out of nowhere. Like, where was Miles Sanders? It seems like 2 years ago was the last time we were introduced to him. What can he bring to this offense? Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, obviously not every down backs. You got Trey Sermon, who's just signed off a practice squad. How important is Miles Sanders to this team?
Well, I mean, if he doesn't have that long run
With the offensive line,
they
yeah.
probably lose yesterday.
Yeah.
Because that allowed them to hang on to the ball and not have to give it back to them. And because if they did, I don't think they would have stopped them from scoring.
All right, so the Eagles get one, and we're going to talk about plenty of other stuff around the NFL, give some Super Bowl picks, talk to our guest Bill Bergey, much more. Greg Luzinski and Dan Baker are here for the Bulls session at 6. Make sure to join us here at Hard Rock for live entertainment in the cafe every Wednesday. Enjoy some great food and our happy hour drink specials every Wednesday, 5 to 7. This Wednesday's performer, Ray Pearson, a split decision. Come enjoy it at the Hard Rock Cafe, where the Monday Night Kickoff returns following this.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City at 12th and Market Streets has it all. Great food takes center stage with dine-in and pickup available. Their burgers are so famous, they have their own chauffeurs. So order delivery and catering too. So if you're celebrating or just getting the band together, Hard Rock Cafe's got your back. For more info, hit up hardrockcafe.com.
I'm Lisa Thomas Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
All right, Bubba, some cross-training here with the Eagles and the Phillies having shows back-to-back here. Our 6 o'clock show, Bulls, Greg Luzinski just came up here. You guys, a warm embrace. Great to see the fraternity of Philadelphia athletes together like it is. You guys from the same era. Another guy from way back then, Dan Baker, who's hosting the Bulls session, 50 years, the Phillies public address announcer. But in your case, you had the nasal cancer. Dan has battled a lot of stuff in that area as well. Have you and Dan talked? And
we have not talked yet, but I'd love to talk to him. But, you know, it was great to see the old Bull come up here and rap with me for a minute during the break. And he is just a good, solid, wonderful guy. But you know something, back when I played, it seemed like all of them were just good guys.
I know he played.
Mike Schmidt was another one.
Mike Schmidt, yeah. I think
Larry Boa.
Larry Boa. Many of them. Greg played football, and you can tell that just by looking at him. He used to be a football coach. Did you ever play baseball?
I did. As a matter of fact, the coaches at Arkansas State University wanted me to play baseball, and I just wanted to stick with football. But I was a catcher. I had a frozen rope to second base. Nobody would ever steal on me.
JT Rio Bergey,
my senior year in high school, I batted .427. That is no lie. And I love baseball. I really do. I love to watch it today, as a matter of fact.
Bull, do you believe you batted .427? Yeah, Greg's going with it.
Sure, he knows I batted .427. Why in the heck wouldn't he?
So what happened? Did you have options at the professional level? Did anybody ever think about drafting you or offer you a scholarship?
No, Arkansas State, they wanted me to play baseball. instead of going to spring ball, me playing baseball in the spring, and I just said, no, I don't think I want to. I think I want to stick with football.
Well, it looks like it worked out. Domo, worked out for many people who are going to be playing football this year. The Super Bowl in Arizona, Eagles go out there once. I personally think, and I said this before yesterday, that the Eagles would struggle yesterday. Opening game, tough environment, blah, 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 chemistry. I think the Eagles are going to be 4-0. I don't think they have any difficult games in the next three. Perfect spot next Monday. They got to go out and play them. They can't think what I'm thinking or what you might be thinking, but I think they're 4-0 heading to the desert, maybe for the first time this year because the Super Bowl is in Arizona. What are you thinking about the near future?
Well, I mean, the schedule's set up for them to. I mean, last year, you knew they were going to struggle early, but they had easy games early that were late that were winnable, and they helped them make the playoffs. This year, it's just the opposite. They've got to win early and take advantage of that. I mean, I think they can be 8-2 through 10 games. If they do that, they're sitting pretty.
They should win this division easy. I know after week one, it's hard to say that. I think they're going to win the division. I don't think the last game of the year is going to mean anything, put it that way. But along the way, injuries can happen. One happened yesterday that looked like nothing that turned out to be something with a torn ACL for a kind of star-crossed defensive end, Derek Barnett, who was brought back this year. Obviously going to miss the rest of the year. This is where depth matters on that defensive line, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they addressed a lot of that. I mean, I know a lot of people were down on him, a first-round pick that never quite panned out to what they expected. But he was a good run defender, set the edge real well. They're going to miss him. But, I think you're going to see Brandon Graham's snaps start to increase here as he gets further and further away from the Achilles tear.
One of our favorite Eagles of all time. Bubba, you have some kids, your wife Mickey, some beautiful children. One of them was one of the great lacrosse players really of all time, Jake Bergey, who played for the Wings and other teams. What's old Jake and your other kids doing these days?
Well, Jason, my oldest, is a financial planner. Jake, he is in the hospital business where he is in the operating room 5, 6, 7 times a day.
5, 6, 7 times a day?
Yeah, he is a rep for knee, hip, shoulder, and ankle replacements, doing very, very well, and has got a real good business going there. And then I've got my youngest one. I got a bunch of grandchildren, and life is wonderful.
That is terrific, guys. Chris Summer just subbed us a note about a guy he's particularly interested in with these Eagles, and Jordan Davis, who didn't play a lot of snaps yesterday either. Nakobe's teammate down at Georgia, part of the defensive line rotation. Obviously not at end, but they're stacked at defensive line. What about Jordan Davis, his potential, what he showed you yesterday, Damo?
He looked good when he was in there early on, because he's just impossible to move. He's when they tried to run up the middle, it was like hitting a stone wall.
They didn't run up the middle a lot, though. Obviously, every time you have a kryptonite, there's an answer to that. Don't run up the middle. Don't do this. Don't do that. Can the Eagles defend Plan B? That's the question.
See, I think eventually they're going to move him around a little bit. I mean, he is, he's an athletic freak. Probably 350-pound guy that ran a 4.78 40. I mean, you could line him up on the edge. I'd love to see them do that and rush the passer on third and long, see how that goes. Because, I mean, nobody's going to stop him when he's coming right at you. I mean, there's no offensive tackle that's going to, be able to stand in his way once he gets, going.
All right, Bill, who is, in your long career in the NFL, observing it afterwards, but let's say guys you played with the Philadelphia Eagles or an opponent, if you want to mention them, who's the best pure athlete that you ever played with at any position, whether you directly opposed them or not?
Well, it's a good question. I'm going to think about it for a second, but I think Roger, the Dodger Staubach, was the best. He took his leadership from the Naval Academy right on in to pro football, and the guy is just marvelous.
And who did he play for? He played for a team down in the South. I can't remember the name of that team.
Yeah, team down in the South, and he is highly successful to this day. I mean, he's built $1 million business.
$1 billion business.
Billion, probably, yeah.
So Roger Staubach, Damo, who's the best athlete you've seen from Bill's era when obviously things weren't where they are now without the nutrition, without the exercise, without everything? We talk about eras and athletes. Who's the best that you've seen from back then?
Oh, jeez.
Tell you, Dallas had another guy who was a pretty damn good athlete that I remember. Hollywood Henderson.
Yeah.
Who's the best Eagle? We got,
From back in that era?
yeah.
Wow.
Of all the Super Bowl team, Bill, who's the best athlete on that Super Bowl team that you played with?
Oh, offensive lineman, probably Jerry Sizemore. We had a nice linebacking core. But the thing of it is, when we ended up going to the Super Bowl, we just all got real hot, stayed healthy, and we got there. Unfortunately, we didn't win the game, but...
Well, let me mention something. We only got a couple minutes left. Greg won the World Series with the Phillies in 1980, and you said to me once, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I share the same point of view you do about this. I don't know if Greg does or not, but you told me that playing in a Super Bowl, you would rather have not ever played in a Super Bowl than played in one and lost. It was that disappointing.
That is true.
Wow.
That is true.
It's interesting because a lot of people say just getting there, seeing the moment, seeing all the hoopla, but then you lose, and it's just disappointing, isn't
I
it?
remember coming back on the plane back to Philadelphia, and we had spent the night down there. It was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. We had beaten the Oakland Raiders earlier that year.
Crushed them.
And for some reason, we got behind early, and then they had a big 80-yard play from to Kenny King down the sideline. Herman Edwards went to make a play on the ball, and he just misjudged it a little bit. So I get into the huddle, and being one of the leaders on the team, I'm just saying, guys, let's stop waiting for stuff to happen. Let's take it upon ourselves to make something happen. And Paul, not one person looked at me in the huddle, and I go, and this was still just before the half was to come about, and I go, oh my gosh, there is no way in hell we're going to win this game. And I knew it in the first half.
You know, Dick mentioned something that when I asked him once what he would have changed about the approach to that game, and he mentions the bye week before the Super Bowl. Leonard Toast throws a party, and Dick didn't think they should have had it, but he consented to it, and you guys had it, and he looks back on it now and thinks it just didn't put you guys in the right frame of mind.
Guys, I got to mention, we only got a minute. Next week, Minnesota comes in. We'll be reliving, recapturing. There's parades about the Jalen Reagor era in Philadelphia. Justin Jefferson, he come in 1-0. We'll be back here at the Hard Rock again next Monday at 5 o'clock with Sean Landetta. Bill, thank you so much. Stay healthy. Stay being Bill Bergey. We love you, and thanks for being with us.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Paul Domowitch. Great maiden voyage.
Good to be back with you.
Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. Stay tuned for the Bull Session with Dan Baker and Greg Luzinski. Their special guest tonight is Ed Wade. For our producer, Chris Hermer, I'm Paul Jolovitz. For Paul Domowitch, thanks for joining the WBCB Monday Night Kickoff. We're here every week. Go Eagles, and enjoy the year, everybody. Take care.
You've been listening to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Tonight's show is an exclusive presentation of WBCB 1490 and 107.3 FM and heard around the world at WBCB1490.com.